know there's a lot of things you could be doing, and we certainly do appreciate when you carve time to join us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, we're coming to you from the studios that they provide for us, which are second to none. They are one and one, or one of one, I should say. Get the preposition right there. As is our guest, none other than the man, the legend, Ted Karras. This guy,
great to be back in the trenches, Lap.
back in the trenches we go. I mean, you've done an unbelievable job with the Cincinnati Bengals. Leadership is something that first and foremost, when I think of Ted Karras and what he brings to the table, not only a great player in that, you can run block, you can pass protect, you can do it all, and you can decipher things. I mean, you're unbelievably intelligent, the extremely high football IQ. You can get people, make the calls to get guys, your teammates blocking the right people at the right time in the right way, and all that goes along with it. But your leadership, that's part of it, kind of the quarterback of the offensive line as such. But your overall leadership, I mean, in the locker room, on the football field, in the community, you're such a great ambassador for the Cincinnati Bengals. Where does that leadership come from, Ted? I mean, who was it that you looked to when you were putting together, the type of leader that you wanted to be?
Well, I think a lot of leadership talk is probably overblown and over talked about. I think leadership comes from the way you carry yourself day in and day out and the energy you bring. But if I had to pick someone who I've modeled myself after, it'd be my father, and just the energy he brings to his teams every single day. Being at the right place, the right time, doing the right things. A lot of what the NFL comes down to is knowing what to do and knowing how to do it. And, to a certain extent, that goes to coaching, but also you have to take a lot of ownership of yourself in this league and be a guy that, I write it down in my notebook every day. I say, earn trust the men around you and build their trust in you. And, that comes from carrying yourself every single day, high energy, high execution, and high performance.
So is there anybody, I mean, your dad obviously was a great guy to learn from and especially from a leadership standpoint, being a head football coach, a leader of men, and a guy who molded young men at a very, very critical time in their life, to have the right type of influence, the right type of leader to put them on a path that led to success in life. There's nothing more important than that. So I tip my cap and salute your dad. I mean, and there are, a lot of high school football coaches that are cut from that cloth that your dad's cut from. And these guys are like gems, man. I mean, what they do to help our youth get to where they need to be is extraordinary. So your dad, unbelievable, a day-to-day leader, just seeing how he lived his life, what he did, how he took care of his family, everything that goes along with it. From a football standpoint, when you started playing on teams that were not, your dad wasn't a part of, who were there players, were there coaches? Who did you target and say, that guy gets it? That guy's got some unbelievable traits. That guy's a leader. I want to try to emulate that. Was there anybody like that, Ted?
Oh, I have to give a shout out to the legend. Happy retirement to Dave Andrews. David Andrews up in New England. Played 10 years, all for the Patriots. Was a great guy. And talk about earning trust. I mean, he came in as an undrafted free agent with an incumbent center who had just won the Super Bowl and, earned his spot, earned his stripes, and ended up being probably an 8-year captain for the New England Patriots. So,
wow.
That goes back to trusting the men around you and building their trust in you, and obviously earning the trust of your coaches, the front office, Tom Brady. So he's a guy that, I didn't know center coming into the league, and, he kind of was a guy that I tried to emulate. I was a guard strictly in college, and, I was his backup center for 3 years. And then, he had an issue, and I got to step in 2019 and kind of launched my center career. So I give a lot of credit to him for who he is as a person and a man and a player, and a guy that's won a lot of football games, bringing the energy every single day.
How about, you're a guy that exposes himself to everything there is to know in life. I mean, you absorb it all, man. You're a sponge. You're out there learning every single day, not just football, and I don't want to diminish, how much time that takes to try to master the game of football. I know exactly what that's like on a day-to-day basis, particularly that can be at the highest level against the greatest athletes in the world. I mean, that's a challenge. That's an unbelievable challenge. You challenge Royale as such, and you do it remarkably well. What about other facets? I mean, you got a foundation that's immensely successful. So you go out into the community and you run into a lot of different business leaders and successful people in all walks of life, all ventures in life. What, in your mind, when you watch these people and see them, what constitutes leadership? I mean, what are they doing right in terms of being leaders, do you think?
Well, I think a main factor in any organization is creating a standard language. So, when sometimes you'll go into these business meetings and they're talking things, you just kind of have to fake it till you make it.
Right.
And once you learn,
Right.
In industry and, in organization, I think, one of the biggest factors of success is like how we talk, how do we communicate what's going on, whether that be, vocabulary, maybe some nicknames for things. But one thing that I like to do in all of my different organizations is create, and this started from football, is, kind of a concise professional language that we all know like the back of our hand and can speak quickly in situations without it doesn't have to be like a teaching moment. We know what we're talking about, and then we can go execute whatever it is we're planning to do. So, I've taken that from some business people. This did start in football. I think that, I'm always a big proponent of everyone speaking the same language. And in football, it can morph. I've been under many different offenses and O-line coaches. And, each year you have to take that and morph it into, what is our 2025 language that we're going to be speaking on the sideline, in the huddle, in film. You go to the Cincy hat, we're breaking ground on a seven bedroom apartment building in Madisonville for adults with disabilities. And so
Right.
now, I've been in the construction game now for a long time, but, our Cincy hat, Matt, our CEO, this is kind of his first foray into, constructing a building. And so he's kind of getting caught up on all the lingo and the different stuff. And, we're going into meetings with municipalities or meeting with architects. So it's a lot of fun, but I think, the number one thing, I think we started on leadership, but I kind of took off on a tangent of, I think that,
yeah, that's good stuff.
The language factor of any organization is big, especially as a leader. You have to cultivate that and, at times, correct wrong language.
Yeah, and I think leadership and language, I think they kind of tie in, together a little bit. It's like the leader has to have total command of the language. I mean, it's like the leader is
absolutely
the leader's the interpreter, right? I mean, the leader's the guy. The leader has to decide, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. But then he has to be able to communicate it. I mean, if the leader is speaking English and they're listening to French, or the leader speaking Spanish and they're hearing German, I mean, it's not going to work. Everybody has to be on the same page with the same language, right?
It can get you in very much trouble, especially in this league. If we're not, I'm a big proponent of just sideline quick adjustments, very concise. And, what front was it? Make sure we are talking, because Dave, there's about 5-6 standard languages, I'd say, in the NFL. So, if are we talking, an under front is a 25, that's a language I've been in. In other places, it's been called an under tom, and that means the Sam's on the line of scrimmage. So there's just little nuances like that in a 3-minute sideline interaction that we need to, figure out quickly and even identify if it even was a problem, or did we just not do very great on that play. So there's a lot of things that come through it, and I think the base of that is the language that you speak on the sideline.
Yeah, and it's if you're a player that has gone to say, in a 7-year career 4 teams, you've had to learn and unlearn and relearn, multiple languages. Because like you say, Ted, everybody calls, there's some basics that seem to be kind of universal throughout the league, but for the most part, everybody's got their own language and that describes, over fronts, under fronts, the different blitzes, double A gap blitz type looks. They have different language, different words, different languages to describe those kind of things, and then different languages to make calls that will counteract and prevent those things from being successful, right? So, I mean, language is an important deal. I've been with teammates in the past that honestly, a big reason that they didn't make the football team is they could not learn the language fast enough, man. They just it wasn't that it was their physical skill set wasn't there. I mean, they could perform that way, but they just could not get it at the line of scrimmage. They just were in a confused state all the time. And man, I mean, that's if you don't know who to block, it doesn't matter how well you can block them, right?
And I think that's what was so productive about this spring. We kind of ramped it up in a big way because, like you said, a lot of guys that look good and, are fine and walk through, and then you get in that 11-on-11 setting and, they're, sometimes guys kind of bubble out. And,
yeah.
That's why I was actually really impressed with our left guard, Dylan Fairchild. I think that he came in, how you can kind of tell pretty early, like when a guy's like a football player, he'll know what to do. I don't have to micromanage him as a center. Because we, our defense, this is a new defense with Al Golden. So we really didn't know what to expect. It's not like we were scheming up our D. It was kind of the exercise itself was going out there and communicating on the line of scrimmage to distribute our blockers. And I really felt that he handled himself very well as a professional in his first taste as a 21-year-old in the NFL. You can kind of just tell when guys are footballers. Didn't freak out, especially when there's about 5 different calls we're making on there, and sometimes, and I'm a center too that I expect my guards and tackles to know what to do, and he did a great job.
So you're playing the center position. Orlando Brown's at the right tackle, at the left tackle position, and at the right tackle position, Amarius Mims. But like you said, the guards. I mean, it's a new game in there. I mean, there's a lot of new bodies, a lot of new faces, and I'm sure you're thinking, all right, now I'm going to get a call out early here. I want to get it recognized and give as much time as I possibly can for communication purposes in case there's some kind of a glitch that can be corrected, can be smoothed over, or whatever the case may be. How has that transition gone with you and the new guys that are lining up at that guard position?
I think it's been great. Like I've said, I think we've had a really productive spring, best spring since I've been around, my 4th one. Very thankful for that. I think Lucas Patrick has come in and given a great perspective as another 10-year vet. That's always, as an older guy, you always want to have a couple of those guys in your faction. I think Cody Ford did a great job, and Cordell Volson also did a great job. So, and Jackson Kirkland's in there. I think, I would have, as a young guard, I would have killed for this scenario going into a camp. Like I said, I had Dave Andrews, Shaq Mason, and Joe Tooney. I was the backup for 3 years. I had never had one, true competition chance. There was always a really good incumbent in all 3 spots that I wanted to. Obviously, my ambition was to take that over and be the guy. And I think everyone has that. You should have that deep down if you're a competitive NFL football player and not the starter. So this is the most pure competition that I really have ever experienced in the NFL. I think, 2, open guard spots between 5 guys. I think it's really going to be an exciting July and August. Preseason games are going to be high stakes, higher than usual, I guess, for the guard position. That is your resume and earning trust of your team. And I think that the cream is going to rise, and really it's going to elevate the ceiling and the floor for our whole unit by having such a pure, open competition for guard. I'm very excited to see it and help the guys out.
Competition breeds excellence performance, as the old saying goes, right? And you've got as an offensive line. I look at this offensive line, and the first word that comes to my mind is, man, it's deep. You got a bunch of guys that can play, and particularly you look at that guard position. That all the names you rattled off there, these guys are good football players, man. I mean, it's like this is going to be a serious competition to witness and see who ends up on top during the course of training camp and preseason games and all that, because you got a lot of good football players there that have skins on on the wall. They got some notches in the belt. So it's going to be very interesting to see. You got some veteran players like you talked about. You got some young bucks that want to, get in there and show their stuff right away. It's going to be exciting at training camp, isn't it?
Very much so. And training camp's always exciting. I just think back to my perspective. If I was a year 2 guy, I would have loved the chance of 2 open spots out of 5. Technically every spot is always open, but there's context to organizations. So
right.
This is a really exciting time, I think, for a lot of our young guys. I hope everyone, has gone down to where they're going for summer and coming back ready to go, because we got to do something this year, Lap. We're going to do something this year.
I'll tell you, it's a yeah. I think it's a given. I think this football team, you look at what took place last year, off to a tough start. A lot of injuries, a lot of things that you couldn't control took place during that period of time. But man, nobody spit the bit, man. Everybody stayed right with it. Everybody kept grinding and turn it around, win 5 in a row to end the season. To me, that's a hell of an accomplishment to start off, not the way you wanted to, obviously, but not to panic, not to, throw playbooks out the window and the hell, this is over with, yeah, I guess we start getting ready for next year. Nobody even sniffed anything like that. It was like, okay, put our nose to the grindstone and turn this thing around. And that's exactly what you guys did. And I'm telling you, from experience, having been there and have done it, and it's unbelievably rewarding, and haven't been successful, and it's a bummer. I mean, there's nothing worse. You feel lower than whale dong, when you have a season, like that. But I tip my cap to you guys, and I salute you guys for staying with it, man. Nobody even thought about spitting the bit. I mean, to me, it's a signal that there is leadership in this football team. And I think you're the guy. If I had to pick the leader of the Cincinnati Bengals, there are a lot of leaders. I mean, there are a lot of guys that show leadership, I should say, in their position groups and, what they do on and off the football field, preparation, all that. But man, yours is supreme. Yours is ultra. Yours is ubra. I mean, you bring it every single day, Ted, every day. And that's not an easy thing to do. And somehow you muster it up and you bring it the next day and the day after that. Where does that come from?
Well, if I feel like as a kid, I found out pretty early that I had more energy than everyone else. And so, it got me into quite a bit of trouble over the years. And so basically what I've tried to do is corral that into productivity.
Yeah.
And, I knew football was my dream early on. And the great thing about most things is that if you go harder and longer than other people, you're going to be successful. So that's kind of my mindset in every different facet of my life. And, I really do love being on a team and being with the guys. And I think that's the coolest thing about being in football is that you got your guys and you get to learn about these other guys down the road, and then you pit your guys against them. And it's really one of the deepest pleasures of football is to know and love your teammates, and then, help them to battle other people that know and love each other too. And it's, I guess that's getting maybe a little bit too romantic for football, but that's, if you can't get up for that, you probably shouldn't be in the industry.
Yeah. That's the thing that, people, when I talk about it, or, when friends of mine hear current players talk about it, when I talked about it as a player, those relationships, those bonds that are made, I mean, I start talking about, you guys just don't understand, man. I mean, it's like you go to work and, you might load a truck all day long and go home, or you go to work and you're punching, you're punching a part out of a piece of metal or something, all day long, and you go home, and there's not really, relationships and bonds and trust and respect and all that sort of thing that you get when you're part of I think sports in general, but football, in my mind, it's the epitome. I mean, it's like
people are counting on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and then, the camaraderie of it and the relationships and the sacrifice of your body and your emotional, well-being at times.
Yeah.
So that is the definition of mental toughness, though. That's how I learned it, is, doing what's right for the team when it might not be the right thing for you.
Right. I mean, sacrifice, is something that you learn when you're playing, the game of football, particularly in the offensive line, because let's face it, it's not a glamorous position.
And it's really hard too. And I think Tom Brady stole my quote. I feel like I said this before him, but I'm just kidding. But like he said, if I didn't play football, I wouldn't say I would have accomplished anything hard in my life.
Wow.
Especially physically.
It's pretty good.
Maybe mentally, but even so, all of my degrees are paid for by football. So
right.
I really do think that's cool to go up against the biggest, baddest dudes in the world in a potentially dangerous situation. Knock on wood. Hopefully not overall, but guys are out there flying around.
No question about that. Scott Peters, your new offensive line coach. He's of the new school, new breed kind of guy, from a technique standpoint, fundamentals, and that sort of thing. But he's he's still a football coach. It's not like he's trying to be the Albert Einstein, of professional football. He's still a football coach. But some of his thoughts, some of his ideas, some of his concepts are Albert Einstein-ish. I mean, the guy is a very intelligent dude, and he's put a lot of thought into the things that he teaches, and some of his stuff is a little bit new and a little bit different. How difficult has it been adjusting to some of the techniques and fundamentals that Scott's teaching?
Well, I'll say this to start. I really have loved the 8 weeks we spent with Scott and Mike McCarthy, and I think that it's been so valuable to have such a refresh, to come in, someone kind of just looking at who we are, what we are from 10,000 feet, with no biases, and I talk about not knowing the language, knew nothing, and just watched our film and then can kind of go from there. And I think that we have really tailored our offense and our offensive line strategy to who we are, what we are, and how we need to best perform as a unit to complement those two things as an offense and as a team. Now, some of his techniques I've never heard before.
Yeah.
And these are brand new. I think that's very unique going into year 10 in the NFL. I've had a lot of different coaches over my time, and I think it's been a pleasure. I've implemented quite a few of them. This is the first year I'm going to pay some kids down here to hold some bags for me, just so I can just get some more reps of the way he wants to do it, just because I have never done it before. So I felt more comfortable towards the end of the spring. I started getting the hang of it, but I don't want to lose that and then have to spend the first couple of weeks at camp regaining this muscle memory of these new strikes that I haven't repped enough in my career so far.
Without giving away, trade secret techniques, fundamentals, or whatever. I mean, things, I know people are going to be able to watch tape and and see it and figure it out and whatever else. But it's not like it's this big secret code that nobody's going to be able to break. But he, like you said, he does do some things differently and he does approach the game from some fundamentals techniques, long arm, parallel feet, instead of, having your hands and arms parallel to each other, striking simultaneously at the same length and level, and then having your feet staggered. He's more of a parallel foot guy. A lot of his stuff, when I watch it, it's like, wow, never thought about that. I never thought about doing it that way. It makes a lot of sense, I mean, this guy's put some time and thought into this stuff. What's he been like as an offensive line coach? How is he as a teacher?
Very good. And I think that he's done a great job. Offensive line is a time on task position, just like all of it. But I think our situation is a little bit more exasperated. So I think he's done a great job implementing these techniques and giving us ample time to, drill it in Indy, and then really has created a place where guys feel comfortable throwing it in team or throwing it in some kind of competitive situation without the fear of I might, I don't know this technique very well. It might not go great. It actually started going really great for us. And I thought we had a very, very high productive spring from an O-line perspective. I said the biggest thing for me with Scott is he's a kind of a one-hand punch guy, where I've been pretty much strictly a two-hand punch guy my whole career. So I'm not going to completely throw the two-hand punch away, but I've implemented a lot more of the one-hand stuff, at least to start the play, especially at center. It keeps you more square, keeps your shoulders square, your hips square, your feet square, and really started to see dividends once we opened up the OTA portion and the minicamp portion of spring practices. Saw some success with it, felt some success with it, and that's what I'm going to continue to implement this summer and then going into camp. That's probably the biggest adjustment for me. I've been a pretty strict two-hand punch guy my whole career, so yeah. I'm going to switch it up, start throwing some combos, some Scott Peter combos.
I love it. And the thing about him is, it's not like, okay, I'm going to force feed you this stuff, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do it, damn it, no matter what. And you're going to do it even if, this technique or this fundamental may be better for somebody that has got longer arms rather than, shorter arms. And the shorter arm guy, I don't give a damn if you have short arm. You're going to do it too, and he's not like that. And I remember as a player, as an offensive lineman, and I'm sure you have the same mindset, you couldn't give me enough tools, man. I wanted my toolbox to overflow. I wanted to be able to pick tools from everywhere and anywhere, I didn't want to be limited. And it's like, damn, what do I do now? I mean, this son of a buck's just killing me, man. He's got an answer for this, got an answer for that. I got nothing more. I got nothing more to show him. I got nothing more to do. That's a bad feeling when you're in a competition and you're in that type of a scenario. I would think that as a guy like you, an intelligent veteran player that's played a lot of snaps in the National Football League, you've got a toolbox, man. You got a pretty extensive toolbox, but Scott's adding to it, isn't he?
Absolutely. I would say my toolbox is probably less fancy than a lot of guys. I'm a pretty big believer in, there's certain fundamentals, especially of a pass set that will exponentially increase your chances of winning. And I think these just add even more little nuances to, create victorious situations in competition. And it's been great to rep them and great to throw them. I think we added so many competitive aspects to the spring that I feel way further ahead in my, calendar trajectory of where I want to be, landmarks going into different phases of the off season and season. So I feel like, everyone's going home with, I feel a month ahead of where I usually feel in June 18th.
Man, that's great. That's great news. That's great to hear. So we've talked about the offensive line. We talked about some of the components, some of the roster members of the offensive line and the depth of the offensive line. I think it's a good one in depth. I mean, there may not be like 5, high level Pro Bowl, multiple time Pro Bowl, but there's a ton of really good football players. There's a ton of excellent football players. Give me that any day. Give me, a great football player, an excellent football player at every position group on the offensive line. I'm going to win a lot of football games. If you have a stud and then three, you're in trouble, man. You're in trouble. It's a team game. It's a team game up front. And you get to have five guys that are working together. I always call it, it's like working a fist. You can't have two guys do it and three not. That's no fish. It's all five guys doing what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, how they're supposed to do it, and you get yourself a fist that can do some damage. I think the offensive line is in that kind of a place right now. Do you feel that way, Ted?
I do. I think we're going to flush it out as it starts in camp, and that happens with every team, every camp. Guys are going to step up. Guys are going to show what they can do, how they can help us win. And I think we have probably the deepest unit, like you said, that I've been a part of in Cincinnati. And there's going to be some really, really heavy competition, high stakes practices, and it's really going to be a pleasure to be a part of.
Can't wait to watch. I love training camp, watching that kind of stuff, watching, from the very beginning, as the days put, if you have a good day, you're going to go have another one. You got to start stacking them, man. You can't have a good day, then a bad one, and then a good day again. You can't be all over the board like that. It's going to be really interesting to watch the guys up front compete and go for it in that regard. Let's talk about the other components of the offensive football team, and it's a good one, man. You guys have phenomenal skill players. Starting at the quarterback position, number 9, Joe Burrow. Pretty good. I mean, this guy can play football. He is, in my mind, as good as I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of really great ones. I've seen, Hall of Famers in terms of seeing it, recognizing it, diagnosing it, and then slicing and dicing, putting the ball exactly where he has to put it, and the accuracy with which he throws it, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's like pinpoint. It's not just in the area. It is boom, right at the spot. And he can make every throw. This guy is superior, isn't he?
He is. And I think we all know that. I think that this franchise, this organization runs through 9, and it's the onus is on everyone else to, especially different units, to rise up to assist in helping to win games. And I think he's had a lot of superhero moments over the last 3 years that I've played with him. And I think that if we can all elevate ourselves to a different level, to a new level of execution, we can maybe help relieve some of the need to be a superhero all the time and just go out and play high execution football, score points, play good D, and get out of there with the old Hallis rule. Try to win by 10, 14 points, be comfortable in the fourth quarter.
When you look at the weapons that you've got offensively in terms of throwing the football, the quarterback we just talked about is Ubra. He's as good as there is. Wide receiver position. I mean, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that duo is as good as I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. In all the football that I've watched at every level of football, these two guys, it's as good a duo as I've ever seen. They complement each other so well. They're so talented physically. There's not one thing that they cannot do that a wide receiver needs to do. I mean, they are extraordinary, aren't they? They
are. I think that whole room is really, really a premier group for the NFL. I think Andre Yoshivas is gonna surprise some people this year. I'd throw Mike G into that pass catching sphere. Another great player. And Jermaine Burton, I think, earned a lot of trust this spring. I think that was probably his biggest goal, was to earn the team's trust, earn the coach's trust. And I think he did a phenomenal job of that, showing up to work every single day, ready to go, and executing at a position that requires a lot of different execution in our offense.
At the running back position, Chase Brown is a guy, in my mind, he's a premier talent. I mean, he is a physical marvel. His size-speed ratio is incredible. Dude can fly, man. And, I mean, he can rush for, tough yards, really great contact balance, runs tremendous routes, has excellent hands. There's not much that he can't do on a football field, is there?
No, there's not. I think that, again, there's another great reason, Scott coming in, kind of looking at the run game. What can we put in that best suits his skill set, which is high explosiveness, very good reader of defenses, and the ability to take things to the house pretty frequently. I'm really glad to have Samaje Perine back in the fold. I think Taj Brooks is going to be a great addition. I think, this rookie class, I've really been impressed with, top to bottom, really, with what, they've brought to the table. And we're going to need some of those guys to step up and be in significant roles this fall. So I think we got great backs, great receivers. I'm actually going fishing with Drew Sample and Cam Grandy tomorrow down here.
Nice, nice.
Drew just moved down here. I know Cam's probably just going on vacation. So we're going to go I got to go get a bull mahi. I got a wahoo mounted up to my left.
Whoa.
It's in a different room, but yeah, I need a big bull mahi to put it opposite. And so we have great offense. And, we were tops of the league last year. And, I'm kind of sick of hearing that because that means nothing. There's no transitive property in the NFL. You don't just absorb your success from the year before. And so, it starts on our own here these next 5 weeks. Really hope everyone takes a nice break, but put yourself in a position to come back to work full steam ahead and kind of change the narrative and the prerogative of September football for the Bengals, because that's bitten us the last 2 years. So we need to figure out a way to start fast and then obviously finish strong.
And finally, Ted, on the defensive side of things, Al Golden comes to the football team. He'd been with the Bengals before, was a linebacker coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. The year that he was there as a linebacker coach, the Bengals went to the Super Bowl and lost that Super Bowl, but AFC champions. So he knows good defense. He knows good football. There's no question about it. He had great success at Notre Dame. His defensive schematic is very interesting. He makes it look complicated, but it's really not, kind of thing, I guess, is the best way I can put it. How excited are you about what Al Golden brings to the table for the Bengals defense?
I think it's, again, just going to be a great new start for a lot of our guys. I think a guy that I'd like to highlight would be our D-line coach, Jerry Montgomery. I thought he did a great job this spring. Obviously with a couple guys who weren't even there, but I thought their unit was effective. I think TJ Slayton has done a great job coming in. We needed a big guy in the middle. We got him. But I think Jerry's done a great job. I haven't had the chance to really connect with Al yet. It was kind of a whirlwind spring, but I think that the energy that the defense has brought, I think Demetrius Knight, another player that another rookie that's going to have to step up for us, done a great job. So I think, everyone, hopefully we get the other stuff settled. Everyone comes ready to go in camp, and we put ourselves in a position to be a premier defense of the NFL.
And final question. I promise, I swear to God. Scott Peters, Jerry Montgomery, new offensive line coach, new defensive line coach. They come to the Bengals from the same organization, the New England Patriots, which is not the norm. So they know each other pretty well. They know each other as people. They know each other as coaches. They know the techniques that they're teaching their players. How unique is it to get two new members in the coaching staff, offensive and defensive line, from the same organization with some of these things we're talking about from a similarity standpoint where they can hit the ground running?
I think the biggest thing that happened because of that is just the smoothness between how we did our O-line and D-line work this spring. We added another drill that really got a high amount of repetitions. It was very well run, clean football. There was nothing crazy. And I think that's a testament to, one, how they coach their guys, but two, that they have developed a relationship in the past and were able to implement a new drill to help out our interior line play in a big way in the spring. So that was a big plus to the fact that they knew each other and know how each other work.
Ted Karras, can't thank you enough. You're a great man, and you're always there, man. You always answer the bell. And it's not a surprise knowing the kind of guy you are with your teammates and the leader that you are and the football player that you are. You get a lot going on, man. You are a very accomplished man, and admire you. Thanks for taking time with us, sir.
Anything for you, Lap. I hope you have a great summer. I'm glad we got this in, and then let's reconvene late July. It's going to be a big year.
Love it. Reconvene. Love it. Let's do it, sir. Have a great one. Dave Lapham here. While games are over for the season, there's no off season for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham or First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics gave away great prizes during the season, which will continue with exclusive content in the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. So please do me a favor, subscribe to In the Trenches, hit the like button, and visit the First Star Media Group YouTube channel for exclusive content and special giveaways.